L is for the way you look at me. Oh.
Hello everyone, welcome to St. Agnes Cathedral here in Rockville Center, and we're on the road again, and today I am joined by Mrs. Strauss, who's made the journey with us today, and we're going to continue the discussion on love.
It's actually awesome to be out of my house and have you invite me here to do a presentation for our students. I'm getting cabin fever. I don't know about you. I'm trying to teach with my children around me while they're opening Cheez-Its, and the kids can hear it in the background. So this is a joy. I really am so happy that we could take a moment and a breath to talk about love. To me, one of the things I've been trying to hit on with my students is the different types of love. I don't know how you've been approaching that, but...
Yeah, we've done one day on love and infatuation, which I know your classes will be doing. Then we have love is not a feeling, and then for last night, we are also talking about stirring the oatmeal.
Yeah, my students are on the same page, and what is really nice about opening the discussion on love is sometimes I think in an 18-year-old mind, love is always going to a place of romantic love. But what's nice is, for me, I'm able to talk about the different types of love: parent-child, romantic, friendship. There's love and friendship, and it's not always the butterfly feeling. I don't know how you feel about that or how you approach it.
That's exactly. We've been talking a lot about that, and especially in this, we've also talked about the hookup culture, where everything is based on expectation, ideal. I think one of the things that we really want to focus on is that love has to really be, it revolves around effort, and if there's no effort, then it does not take place.
One of my favorite lines in, I think it was Stirring the Oatmeal or Love is Not a Feeling, was, there's two lines. One is, love is not effortless, it's effortful. So the idea that falling in love is this effortless cascade of emotions, that's not real love. It is a feeling and it's exciting, but love is effortful. And the other line I love is the idea that romance and friendship are utterly opposed energies, because romance demands that you are a character in my narrative, in my drama of life. That's what romance is. But love is like the exact opposite. Friendship is the exact opposite of that.
Right. Romantic love says that you have to be what I want you to be, and friendship says, well, I accept you with all your flaws, with all of the things that maybe that even might even drive us crazy, but in the end they become very, very important.
I agree. One of the things that makes my sons were sitting there when I was actually talking about this, and they were like, oh my gosh, my mom's like was the idea of sex. And I feel like this is sacred ground, and the idea of sex being shameful, that's not what the church teaches. It actually teaches that when it's a friendship that develops into a love, that relationship is ecstatic and the best type of love. It's when we use each other as objects in lust and in just these romantic infatuations where actually the sex is not what God intended.
Right.
And when they hear it like that, I think it takes this veil off from their eyes that the church is like, sex is shameful. No, it's about putting it in the proper place. I talk to my students about that so that they understand the actual teaching.
Yeah, we spoke a little bit earlier in the week about theology of the body, like as a little preface to theology of the body. And one of the things that is so groundbreaking for a pope to speak about is that the opposite of love not being hate, but using somebody.
Yes.
And it's like, well, we know that what happens when you hate someone. I don't include you in my life. I keep you at arm's distance. Well, when I use you, you're even closer to me, and I use you in every aspect. And especially in sexuality, what ends up happening is that this person becomes a means to my fulfillment, and that's why it becomes so detrimental to every relationship.
I could not. That's St. John Paul II, right? That's so wise. Just to build on that for my students and your students, that's why I always think that death and dying and sexuality should be taught almost right next to each other in a curriculum, because they are inextricably linked. If we treat each other as objects in sex, in infatuation, and we make ourselves disposable to this hookup culture, then it justifies assisted suicide. It does, because then you're just saying the person is an object that can be disposed of. If in hookup culture it's just about the, meeting in a bar, hooking up, use each other as objects, then it justifies abortion, because it's saying people are just objects that can be disposed of. And so that's really at the root of the church's teaching, is that no human is an object. That's a beautiful teaching.
Right.
And so I always think that the conversation on sexuality and death and dying are actually like almost totally interrelated.
No, they're very complementary, and the other side is that we teach so much about pride and the danger of pride, and of course what happens is we use pride to fuel the ego, and then ego is really the opposite of love. And I mean, the ego is important because it drives who we are, it drives our passions, but the only problem with that is that ego says it's really all about me, and life revolves around me. And we talked about some of your favorite lines, and in Stirring the Oatmeal, the great line is that love is content to do the things that the ego is bored with. I think that's important. It will fold the laundry, it will take out the garbage, it will take care of the sick relative, it will call grandma and grandpa to see how you're doing, especially during these days, and it really becomes the center of all human activity.
My gosh, I know. I actually would love to do an entire semester just on theology of the body, because there's so much depth to it, and the like you said, love is content doing things that the ego doesn't want to do. I always say to them, I always ask, like, tell me if your parents have ever said the following: I love you, but I don't like you right now.
Of course.
Right? Like, we have these moments where we're less than our best, we're not kind, we're curt with our parents, but love says, like, I still accept you. I'm not going to give up on you.
Right. This outpouring of who we are goes even when we are not really happy with other people. And that's what we learn from Holy Week. That's probably the greatest message that Christ teaches us, is that we can love even in times of disappointment and frustration.
If we were going to wrap it up, that's almost the perfect way to wrap this entire thing up, what you just said. We have this crisis happening in the entire country, and there's some bad news, but in the middle of it all, there's like such outpouring of love. I'm seeing restaurants who have to lay off workers still donating to elderly people. I'm seeing prayer groups, Bible studies starting. Like, I don't know.
That's
Sometimes
so true.
when push comes to shove, we love more.
It is true. Before we leave, we have just one more thing to show you. It's one of the landmarks here at St. Agnes Cathedral. You may pass by this landmark every time that you enter into St. Agnes Cathedral. It's the anvil in which in 1887 that Mass was celebrated on, before there was this beautiful building here in the our diocese. But it really symbolizes the importance of Mass takes place everywhere.
I go back to the Last Supper, and you have Christ sitting around a table. No chairs. In that time period, on the floor, around a low table, breaking bread and sharing it with one another. And for me, in this moment in our country, with this crisis, family time can be a time of breaking bread. It is the Mass. I know a priest isn't present transubstantiating, but I think when we sit down at night, we're actually reliving the Last Supper with Christ. So you can bring that into your home. Even if this church is closed right now, it's possible.
So yeah, don't be afraid. We have that resource page for you. Don't forget to pray every day. You are one with the church. That's a capital C. One with this is just lowercase c. It is important that we go every week, but when we can't, we're still part of something that's even larger than us. So pray and be with Christ and be with each other. Have a great day.